While Pfizer, Moderna, and Astra Zeneca have all been pumping out vaccines, their supply is far short of global demand. So, on today's episode of the Rooster Report, we're going to explain why Western countries should buy Chinese and Russian vaccines. Now, let's be clear here. The world has a vaccine problem. After all, with only a few notable exceptions, North America and Europe have received far more vaccines than the rest of the world. As a result, while vaccines are currently available for all healthcare workers and elderly people in places such as Canada and the UK, vaccines are almost non-existent in places such as Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and the Congo. To make matters worse, companies like Pfizer have had massive production delays, and thus even countries who have ordered their vaccines may have to wait for over a year to get their entire supply. However, China and Russia have taken an entirely different route. That's because each country has been producing their own vaccine for months, and by most accounts, they have been very successful. In regard to China, they have two primary vaccines, one from Sinopharm and another from Sinovac. Of the two, the Sinopharm vaccine seems to be the most effective. Now, while phase 3 trials of it are still being undertaken, studies in both China and the UAE have suggested an efficacy rate of between 79 and 86%, putting it only slightly behind its Western counterparts. Yet, the Sinovac vaccine is another strong option. This vaccine has completed phase 3 trials, and it has an average efficacy rate of about 78%. However, this falls to about 50% amongst healthcare workers who are exposed to high levels of COVID-19. Regardless, China has used both variants to vaccinate over 9 million people, and in many Chinese cities, life is almost back to normal. Unsurprisingly, the Chinese have even gone on to export their vaccines abroad, with recipients including countries such as Brazil, Turkey, Indonesia, and Colombia. Yet, Russia's Sputnik V vaccine has produced even better results. That's because a combination of phase 3 trials, Russian reports, and peer-reviewed studies by Western medical journals such as The Lancet have pegged its efficacy rate at 91.6%. This makes it almost as effective as the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. The Lancet has also found that the vaccine is completely safe, thus eliminating fears that it could have negative side effects. Thus, as a result of these findings, countries such as Mexico, Pakistan, Serbia, and Argentina have begun to import the vaccine in large numbers. In total, these three Chinese and Russian companies have indicated that they could supply 1 billion doses each by the end of 2021. On the other hand, Pfizer has had trouble keeping pace with its planned rollout of 2 billion doses, and Moderna has lagged behind its promised 600 million. Thus, Chinese and Russian vaccines could be a crucial boost for Western nations. Yet, despite their potential, countries in North America and Europe have refused to buy them. One of the main reasons behind said refusal is geopolitics. You see, Western vaccine makers like Pfizer and Moderna have made almost all of their sales to Western nations. This has caused middle-income countries to order their vaccines from China and Russia out of desperation. In fact, this has also created a vaccine war of sorts between Western democracies and the authoritarian powers, and as such, competition has emerged. Yet, due to China and Russia's ability to pump out vaccines more quickly and more cheaply, they have begun to win this war. Therefore, if the West were to also buy these vaccines, it would be an admission of defeat. Additionally, safety concerns are another major reason. After all, China and Russia began to administer their vaccines far before Phase 3 trials were completed. This was an extremely risky move, as if there had been any problems, millions of people would have been on the hook. However, the two countries seemed to have lucked out, as studies seem to show that both Russia and Chinese vaccines are actually quite safe. Yet, due to both of them still having a bad reputation, Western politicians haven't wanted to take the political risk of distributing them to their own population. Yet a final reason is their effectiveness. After all, while the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines both have an efficacy rate of about 94.5%, the Chinese variations have efficacy rates that hover around 80%. Therefore, these weaker results have made Western governments less than willing to invest money into these Chinese vaccines because they know that they won't fully protect their citizens. However, while these reasons are understandable, they all underscore one major problem, and that problem is the lack of willingness to cooperate. After all, today's vaccine war isn't helping anybody, and has instead ensured that politics comes before saving lives. Therefore, rather than slandering each other's vaccines in the press, both the West and the authoritarian powers have to come to an agreement. And while this may be near impossible politically, creating a coordinated global plan that uses the vaccines of multiple countries could save millions of lives. If you enjoyed this episode of the Rooster Report, support us by dropping a like and subscribing. Also, let us know in the comments down below what you think the West should do to end the vaccine war. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.